AEW All Out 2022 is officially in the history books. Maxwell Jacob Friedman officially makes his return to All Elite Wrestling. CM Punk defeated Jon Moxley in the main event. And I also will be discussing all of the backstage chaos and drama that is going on behind the scenes, especially after that media scrum. All this and more right here on the All Out 2022 pay-per-view review, right here on the Wrestle Havoc podcast on YouTube. Wow. It has been a while since I have done a review for you guys. What's up, everybody? It is the one and only Flamin' Rick right here on the very first edition of the Wrestle Havoc podcast right here on YouTube, in which we are discussing everything, and I mean everything, in and outside of the squared circle right here on YouTube. Holy shit, we got a lot of things to talk about right here on the All Out 2022 pay-per-view review. A lot of things happened, and a lot of things came out after the show went off the air. Of course, the big story is MJF officially makes his return to AEW. It is a big deal, ladies and gentlemen. And also, CM Punk wins the AEW World Championship from Jon Moxley. I will talk about all of this and much more right here on the review. But before I get on with all of this craziness, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more content. Also, if you guys want to listen to the Wrestle Havoc podcast in audio format, it is available on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, and Google Podcasts. The links are in the description below. But instead of getting, wasting a lot of time, let's talk about the pay-per-view. Let's talk about the pay-per-view because, again, a lot of things happened on this show. This show, of course, had competition. I wouldn't necessarily say direct competition, but of course, if you guys do not know, Clash at the Castle was the night before. And it's safe to say Clash at the Castle was a really good show. Now, there's been a lot of flaws, in my opinion, regarding AEW pay-per-views as of late. Really, the main flaw is the fact that the shows are way too long. I understand Tony Khan's point of view of, you're paying $50, I want to give you the best card you can get, and if it means having a lot of matches, I totally understand. But realistically, in my opinion, I sit through a 3-hour Raw all the time, and most of the time it can be unbearable. And sometimes, actually, I should say most of the time, I tend to get bored a lot when I watch a 3-hour Raw. Yes, there's only 4, or I should say now 5 pay-per-views a year for AEW, but at the same time, I feel like AEW really needs to put the mentality of quality over quantity. I think it's time for them to shorten the pay-per-views a little bit. I just feel like the shows are way too long. Double or Nothing was a pure example of that. But I will say, All Out, even though the show was really long, the show flowed really well. And the reason why I say that is because of the fact that you were going to get your bangers, but at the same time, really, the real challenge for a lot of the wrestlers were some of the wrestlers that were actually following those fantastic matches. For example, Jade and Athena delivered a fantastic match, and that was right after that trios match that, of course, the Elite and Dark Order had. It was probably one of the best, if not the best match of the entire night. It was going to be really tough for Jade and Athena to follow that match, but really, what I think of that is they're actually putting, the best effort that they can to basically say, hey, we know we followed this match, but we're trying our best, and they actually delivered a fantastic match. So really, what I'm trying to say here is the show flowed much better than Double or Nothing did, and realistically, almost every single match on the show mattered. Now, granted, I will say this, some of the matches were a little rushed. For example, Powerhouse Hobbs and Ricky Starks was a match that was a little rushed as well. But again, it was a match that actually still delivered, and I believe the right man won when it came to Powerhouse Hobbs, and they're booking Powerhouse Hobbs like an absolute monster. But we got other matches on the card as well. Of course, we got the Casino ladder match. We got the Lionheart versus the American Dragon. Of course, Chris Jericho versus Bryan Danielson. As I've stated earlier, Powerhouse Hobbs versus Ricky Starks. Athena versus Jade. The 4-way for the AEW Interim Women's Championship. All this, man, we got a lot of shit to talk about right here on this AEW All Out review. In our first match of the evening, of course, we got The Casino Ladder Match. Of course, the Casino Ladder Match is a staple of All Out, either the Casino Battle Royal or the Casino Ladder Match. In this case, it's the Casino Ladder Match. Of course, the winner who wins the Casino Ladder Match will grant an opportunity at the AEW World Championship in the near future. My guess is this match is going to be taking place at AEW's Grand Slam show, which is, I believe, in 3 weeks. But yeah, man, the participants in this match are 2 members of the Blackpool Combat Club, Wheeler Yuta, Claudio Castagnoli, who is the Ring of Honor World Champion, Wheeler Yuta, of course, the Ring of Honor Pure Champion, Penta and Fenix, Andrade and Rush, and Dante Martin, and of course, the Joker, who was revealed at the end of the night to be MJF, but we'll talk about that later on. But overall thoughts on this match, man, I thought the match was really good. For the finish of the match, I kind of felt like, this was very weird, but I didn't shit on it like a lot of people did, considering the fact that, everybody kind of knew who the person in the mask was, but I'll get to that later on. I'm going to break down the match now. So we Fenix and Wheeler Yuta start. Both chop each other. Both proceed to exchange shots. Fenix takes Yuta to the second rope. He hits somewhat of a 619 to the legs of Yuta. I believe that was in the corner of the ring. Then Fenix hits a spinning heel kick on Wheeler Yuta. Fenix then sets up the ladder onto the outside. Fenix and Yuta then are up on the top rope. Yuta then fights off Fenix, but then Fenix falls but misses the ladder. After that, Yuta goes for the suicide dive, and Fenix lands on the ladder after that. After this, the next wrestler is Rush. So then Rush comes out. Yuta climbs up the ladder while Rush was actually coming down the aisle, which is very weird to me. Then after that, Yuta goes back up, but then Rush pulls him down. Then he hits an elbow on Yuta. Yuta then tries to fight back with a couple of chops. Then Rush proceeds to hit a release belly-to-belly suplex on the ladder on Wheeler Yuta. Then Rush goes for the headbutt on Fenix. Rush then hits a beautiful somersault onto the outside on Fenix. Then he sends Fenix multiple times onto the guardrail. He takes Fenix with the cable. After that, I believe it was with the cable. Takes out with the cable. I completely forgot what happened there, but the next wrestler after this is Andrade El Idolo. After this, Rush sets up the ladder into the center. Rush actually lets... It kind of looked like Rush let Andrade go up. Of course, they're tag team partners. Both Rush and Andrade set another ladder onto the middle rope. Rush then takes Fenix and then sends him to the ring post. Both then take another ladder in between the guardrail and the ring apron. Then they drive Fenix headfirst onto that ladder, which looked absolutely devastating. Rush and Andrade go up, but then Yuta comes in. He climbs up the ladder, but then both Yuta and Andrade fight it out. Andrade then hits the sunset flip powerbomb. After that, onto the ladder on the middle rope. Then after that, right after that crazy-ass spot, the next wrestler comes out, and it's Claudio Castagnoli, the Ring of Honor World Champion. Then he runs into an uppercut on Rush. Then after that, he climbs up the ladder with the other ladder on the main ladder, which was very weird. The way that the ladders were shaped at this point of the match was very weird. So Claudio was really trying to be creative at this point. Andrade then comes in, but then Claudio tilts the ladder on Andrade, but then he proceeds to lift it. So then at this point, the two ladders that are kind of connected together are shaped like an X. So they're shaped like an X after that, and then that leads to Andrade getting thrown off the outside. And then Dante Martin is the next wrestler as well. Both Fenix and Claudio take the ladder and hit Dante Martin, but then Dante continues to come back. Dante looked absolutely great. A lot of people called last year Dante Martin really the MVP rookie of the entire year. Dante Martin is fantastic in the ring, man. This guy is insane. And as I believe Taz said it on commentary, Dante Martin looked like Spider-Man. He legit looked like Spider-Man, and that was really awesome to see. But Dante comes back. Fenix then gets taken to the outside, but then Claudio gets taken to the outside. Dante Martin then goes to the apron, but then Yuta climbs the ladder. But Dante springboards. So as soon as Yuta is climbing up the ladder, Dante legitimately springboard and actually landed on the ladder. And then what happens is he hits a dropkick on Yuta. Claudio tries to go for the pump-up uppercut, but then Dante lands on the ladder, but Claudio takes him to the outside, which leads to Claudio going onto the outside as well. At this point, the next wrestler is Rey Fenix's partner, Penta El Cerro. He goes on and hits a beautiful, and you guys know me for over a year, the best move in the history of the business is the Canadian Destroyer. Shout out to Petey Williams. Penta goes for the Canadian Destroyer on Dante Martin on the ramp. Then we go for a thrust kick on Yuta. Claudio then gets hit with the backstabber by Penta El Cerro. Penta then gets taken to the apron, but then Penta goes for the Gamagiri on Claudio. Andrade then comes in, and then he proceeds to pick up Penta, but then Penta proceeds to escape. After that, both go on the ladder onto the outside. Fenix runs on the top rope and kicks Roosh because Roosh tried to interfere. Then after that, Penta hits the Canadian Destroyer on Andrade on the fucking ladder, which looked absolutely devastating. Fenix then goes for the frog splash on Roosh through the table onto the outside. Claudio and Yuta climb up the ladder. After that, Dante springboards once again, but this time he doesn't land on the ladder while Claudio's actually on the ladder. Dante actually springboards, and he's up on the back of Claudio Castagnoli, so Claudio has more weight on his shoulders at this point during the match. Then after that, Fenix goes for the... actually, no, I kind of messed up my notes right there. Then all of a sudden what happens is, after that crazy-ass spot, you got men in masks come in and basically take out almost every single wrestler that is participating in the entire match. And this is where really the interesting shit kicks in. Really, this match is realistically not going to be remembered for all the crazy ass spots. In fact, this match is going to be remembered what actually happened in the end of the match. So a bunch of men in, masks come in, and this looked, I shit you not, this looked exactly, and I'm going to be 100% honest here, this looked exactly like freaking Retribution from the WWE. It looked exactly like that, and it was absolutely hilarious in my opinion. But they actually pulled it off this time. But after that, Stokely Hathaway is revealed as one of the members, and for a second there, you actually thought that Stokely Hathaway, was going to be the one to challenge, whoever, Jon Moxley or CM Punk, whoever was going to win the main event at a future date. But realistically, it was not them, because the timer was actually still going on, and it was revealed to be a masked man. So what happens is the music plays, and it's Sympathy for the Devil by the Rolling Stones. And this man in the a man in the mask walks out, and this is a photo of what I'm talking about right here. I should have it right here. If I don't, I completely botched it, but whatever. I don't got the photo here because I messed up with my OBS. But if you guys look at the thumbnail, MJF has that mask with him. But yeah, man, it's a man with a mask. And right off the gate, from the way he walks, you're immediately thinking to yourself, holy shit, this is MJF we're talking about, because nobody walks the way that MJF walks. It was really MJF, and social media definitely saw it. They were like, dude, if this is not MJF, I do not know who the fuck it is. But whatever. It looked like it was about to, the person was about to reveal themselves, but what happened? They trolled everybody. He did not reveal himself until the end of the show, of course, but Stokely Hathaway gives him the chip, and this masked man, or I should say the devil, actually wins the title shot and will face whoever the champion is. Spoiler alert, it will be CM Punk. But yeah, man. Again, overall thoughts on this opening match. It was a great ladder match, but realistically, this ladder match is not going to be remembered for all of the crazy-ass spots that happened. It's going to be remembered what happened in the end. And the weird thing is throughout the entire time, because for weeks, Stokely Hathaway has been realistically, going after a bunch of people that were quote-unquote unused. You had people like, the wingmen, that is Peter Avalon and all those guys, Ryan Nemeth, a.k.a. Dolph Ziggler's brother. You had the wingmen saying they're underutilized. You had guys like Ethan Page cut a promo on Dynamite saying, oh my God, I'm not, being utilized really well. I'm being underutilized, all blah, blah, blah. And then you had guys like Stokely Hathaway come in and give these guys a business card. And what happened about this was the fact that this also, same thing happened with the Gun Club as well, with the Gun Brothers, Austin and Colton Gunn, which would then lead them to turn on their father. That's why Billy Gunn is now a part of the Acclaimed. But yeah, man, at the time I was like, really, I could give less of a shit on what's going on here. But realistically, as the weeks went on, you were thinking, I think this is part of a greater story. And what happened in this ladder match in the end definitely showed that it was 100% part of a greater story. And, of course, the member was revealed to be MJF, but I'll talk about that later on. But overall, a great match. In our next match, we got the Elite versus Hangman Page and the Dark Order. Of course, he is teaming up with Alex Reynolds and John Silver in the finals of the AEW Trios Championship Tournament. Overall, this tournament has been really fantastic. You know, the return of Kenny Omega was absolutely perfect. You know, a lot of people were kind of questioning whether, Kenny Omega was 100% or not, but I genuinely believe he's doing really well. And realistically, in his first match back, a lot of people were questioning, dude, is he 100%? Not only that, he had a lot of tape on, and he was wearing that shirt, but this was full-on Kenny Omega. And when I mean full-on Kenny Omega was wrestling in this match, I 100% mean it. And a lot of people were saying Tony Khan was not really going to reveal these Trios Championships up until Kenny Omega finally returned. But, yeah, man, this Trios Finals match was absolutely fantastic. I could easily come on here and say that the match was really good because of the spots that happened, and that does play into a factor, of course. But realistically, what really made this match so special was the story element behind it and the nods to the past that this match in a way kind of, reminisced. And you will really see that as I break down this match, because really this whole match is based off of story. And at the end of the match, you create a new program because Hangman Page, of course, in the end of the match, actually by accident, I believe it was he actually accidentally hit the buckshot. I believe it was on John Silver. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'll talk about that as I go through on the match. But again, the beauty of this match was not only the spots, really the main beauty of this entire match was the story. Of course, we had Hangman Page and Kenny Omega back in the ring together once again. Of course, these two men main evented Full Gear, and you had Hangman Page defeat Kenny Omega for the AEW World Championship. But, yeah, man, the match starts. Both Hangman and Nick Jackson start the match. Hangman goes for the shoulder tackle. Then both block each other. After that, Matt and Alex Reynolds make the tag. We get a couple of wrist lock switches. Reynolds then offers a handshake, but then Matt spits in the face of Alex Reynolds, which would then cause some tension regarding Alex Reynolds and John Silver. And actually, they were causing a little bit of tension within the group, that being Hangman Page and the Dark Order. So Alex gets pissed off after Matt spits in his face. He goes after him with repeated rights. So both lock up. Silver then goes for the blind tag. Then at this point, Silver with the shirt hit with a shot to the back, I should say, off of Matt Jackson. Silver and Reynolds then go for a stomp after Matt Jackson. Hangman then proceeds to separate them. After that, Hangman tags in, I should say. Then he faces off with Matt Jackson. But what happens is Matt Jackson tags in the best wrestler in the world today, Kenny Omega, and the crowd goes absolutely apeshit. So what happens here is both face off, and then both lock up and then separate again. Then both proceed to lock up again, but then Silver comes in with the blind tag. So as I've stated earlier, the tension is really brewing within the Dark Order and Hangman Page after that blind tag was made. So Silver comes in with the blind tag. He goes after Kenny. Then Alex makes the tag in. Then after that, he sends Kenny chest first into the corner. Silver then makes the tag, but then we get a double drop toe hold followed by a double shotgun dropkick by Dark Order. After that, Hangman goes for the blind tag of his own, I should say. Kenny then goes for a chop, and then Hangman goes for a chop. Kenny then runs into a boot. Hangman then goes for the fall-away slam. After that, the Elite proceed to take out Hangman. Hangman then goes for the springboard dropkick attempt, but then Nick takes out the Dark Order onto the outside. After that, Kenny tags in Matt, but then Matt goes to the top. Matt goes for the elbow drop on Hangman Page, and then we get a cover by Matt and a near fall. Nick then makes the tag. We get a somersault over the top rope. The Elite at this point are in control over Hangman Page. Then Kenny makes the tag. The Elite then go for the combination on Hangman and the Dark Order. Then Kenny takes Hangman into the corner. He goes for repeated rights after that. Omega then picks up Hangman for the You Can't Escape moonsault attempt, but Hangman escapes. Hangman comes in and then picks up Omega and then hits the Death Valley Driver. After that, Silver then makes the tag. He works on Matt Jackson. Matt then takes Silver to the apron. Silver then goes for the Gamengiri after that. Then after that, Silver then takes out everyone around the ring. So John Silver is going for Johnny Hungee right now. Then but gets caught by a kick by Nick Jackson. Facebuster by Nick on Hangman. Then we get a Brainbuster Suicide Dive combination by the Dark Order. We get a running pump kick by Matt Jackson. And then Matt goes for the Spin Doctor. But after that, or I should say on Matt. Matt does not go for it. One of the members of the Dark Order went for it. We get a cover into near fall when Kenny makes the save, but then Reynolds takes Omega to the outside. Then the Dark Order pick up Matt, but then Matt hits the release double Northern Light suplex. Then after that, Omega makes the tag. He goes to the top. Then he hits a crossbody, and then hits the Snapdragon suplex on Alex Reynolds. And then he hits it on Hangman Page. But then he tries to hit it on Silver, but then Silver escapes. He goes for an arm drag attempt. Then he goes for repeated kicks, but then Omega escapes the Brainbuster attempt, but then Omega goes for the Brainbuster on Silver. So he hits a Brainbuster of his own. Then at this point, the Elite are in control over Silver in the corner, but then the Dark Order regains the advantage. But then we get the amazing combination strikes by Silver and Reynolds on Omega. After that, we get a cover and a close, and I mean a close-ass near fall. So that amazing combination I'm talking about was those combination of moves that Alex Reynolds and John Silver do all the time, with a combination of a German suplex, clothesline kicks, all that shit. They literally do that shit all at once, bro. I don't know how they do it, but that's one of the craziest things I've ever seen in tag team wrestling. Like, Silver and Reynolds are fantastic at doing that every match that they are wrestling together. But we get a cover and a close near fall. Hangman and Reynolds then take Omega up, but then the Bucks come in. Then they super kick Hangman and Reynolds. Omega then goes for the V-trigger on John Silver. At this point, everybody is on the outside. Omega then goes for the somersault onto the outside, but then Matt Jackson makes the tag. He tries to powerbomb Reynolds, but then Reynolds escapes. Then the Elite accidentally kick, I believe it was Matt Jackson. So then we get a moonsault by Hangman onto the outside. At this point, the spots that are happening are insane. And I probably missed a couple of spots on my notes right here. But the Dark Order go for the pendulum bomb. We get a cover into near fall when Nick goes for the senton off the top on all the members of the Dark Order. Then running kick by Nick on John Silver. Reynolds then goes for the thrust kick, but then we get a bunch of super kicks back and forth. So at this point, we got a super kick party going on. And then Hangman and Omega face off once again, and shit got real. So what happened here is the ref is telling them that they are not the legal man. But Hangman and Omega, this was one of my favorite parts of the entire match. So Hangman and Omega actually dragged the legal men that were actually wrestling at that current time in the match. So they dragged them to their respective corners, and they actually tagged themselves in for them to be the actual legal men. I actually absolutely enjoyed that. Again, story is what really made this match fantastically special. So after they tagged in, both face off and then both fight it out. Hangman goes for the boot, but then Hangman tries to go for the back elbow. Omega goes for the V-trigger and then goes for the Tiger Driver 98. As I've stated right at the top, and right before I went to the breakdown of this match, Omega was full Omega in this fucking match. And these portions of the match, near the end of the match, it definitely showed when Hangman and Omega were fighting it out. So after that, we get a cover into near fall. Omega then goes to the top, but then Hangman takes him down. Hangman also comes up top. He goes for a fall away slam off the top, but then we get a cover by Hangman and a fucking near fall. After that, Hangman goes to the apron and he hits the buckshot lariat onto the back of Kenny Omega. Notice, that sounds very familiar because that was the exact finish of their Full Gear match last November. If you guys do not recall, Hangman hit the buckshot behind Omega, and then he went for another buckshot. And at this point, during this particular match that happened last night, Matt Jackson was on the outside, and he stared at Hangman. I love the nod and the little nods that they added in this match. That was absolutely fantastic. Again, story is what literally made this match so special. So after that, after he hits the buckshot on the back of Omega, he goes to the other side of the apron. Matt Jackson is on the outside, and then Hangman takes him out. Nick goes for the buckshot lariat and hits Hangman. Yes, Nick Jackson actually hit the buckshot, countering Kenny Omega, which was one of the craziest things I've ever fucking seen. Then the Bucks go for the V trigger. They went for the BTE trigger after that. We get a cover and a near fall when Reynolds makes the save. Omega then tries to go for the V trigger but misses. And what happens is dude, Silver counters the fucking one-winged angel, right? So later on, so he hits the Gamagiri. Then the Bucks try to super kick Silver, but then Silver goes for a roll-up and a near fall. V-Trigger is hit by Omega. And then after that, Omega picks Silver up for the fucking one-winged angel attempt. Now keep in mind, we all know how good John Silver is, but this shit was fucking amazing. So you had John Silver up on the shoulders of Omega because Omega was going to hit the one-winged angel. And then after that, Silver goes down, but actually inside cradles him. He fucking cradles Omega for the pinfall attempt, and Omega kicks out. That was very close right there. But then Hangman then tries to hit the buckshot on Omega, but what happens? Omega ducks, and he accidentally hits John Silver. We get a cover by Omega, and the Elite win the Trios Championships. Overall thoughts on this match, man. This was by far, this and the tag team match with the Acclaimed and Swerve in Our Glory was one of the best matches, not only of the entire night, but the entire weekend. Of course, we had Clash at the Castle the previous night, and to be 100% realistic here, man, this match was absolutely amazing. I absolutely enjoyed everything that they had done in this match, the way the match was booked, and the nods of story that they added. The elements of story that they added in this match. And this match, in my opinion, was absolutely done to perfection. This match and the Elite versus United Empire match that happened a couple weeks ago on Dynamite. I believe it was 2 weeks ago or last week. I completely forgot. But this match and the United Empire match, really, if you really think about it, if you watch those matches, they basically set the stage for what is going to be the Trios Championships. You're going to get matches like these for the Trios Championships. Not all the matches are going to be like this, but realistically, like this match basically set the foundation for what the Trios Championships are going to be. And you know what? I'm absolutely happy about that because both teams, the Elite and Dark Order, absolutely delivered 110% on this match. Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks, the Elite, are now the new AEW Trios Champions. In our next match, in a match that was that I realistically did not give a single shit about, considering the fact that there was really, in my opinion, see, this is going to be a little controversial. Like, realistically, not a lot of build towards this match. But, this was a match, realistically, that I really did not give a single shit about. And I'm talking about Jade Cargill versus Athena for the TBS Championship. For a match that I did not give a shit about, and for a match that, was going to be very difficult to follow up on after that Trios match, Jade and Athena absolutely delivered for the amount of time that they had. But I will say this. AEW still has problems with their women's division. That's like one of the major issues right now with the company. I feel like Thunder Rosa's title reign so far has been quite lackluster. They're crowning a new interim champion, which of course was Tony Storm, which Tony Khan fucking loves his interim championships on a constant basis. But I feel like the women, in my opinion, in AEW are very underutilized, and, Thunder Rosa's title reign definitely shows it, in my opinion. But Jade Cargill versus Athena for the TBS Championship. Athena goes right after Jade with a series of drop kicks, so Athena goes straight for the attack at this point. She goes for the Meteor, but then Athena goes to the top. She hits a stunner off the top, but then we get a cover and a near fall when Kiera Hogan and Layla, I believe, I completely forgot the other baddie's name, but this is when the baddies start to drag Athena out. Athena then drop kicks one of the baddies onto the guardrail. Then Jade goes for the pump up Samoan drop. Athena gets up, and then Jade goes for the spear. We get a cover and a near fall. We get a back elbow by Jade into the corner. Then Athena fights back with a right hand. She throws Athena across the ring. Athena then counters the powerbomb attempt. We get a roll up and a near fall. Athena then goes for the springboard crossbody after that. We get a cover and a near fall. Athena then goes to the top, but then she misses what she was going to do. Jade then tries to hit the Jaded, but Athena escapes. Then after that, we get a thrust kick by Athena. Then she picks up Jade with, I believe it was a stunner attempt. And then we get a cover and a near fall. Athena then goes to the top. And then, but Kiera Hogan grabs the foot of Athena, which leads to Jade to come in and hit a boot on Athena. We get a roll up by Athena and a near fall. Athena then goes for the springboard, but lands onto the floor. Jade, what happens after that? Jade goes for the one and only Jaded. Jade wins and retains the TBS championship. Who can stop Jade Cargill and her dominant run for the TBS championship? Realistically, again, for a match that I did not give a shit about at all, the women absolutely delivered in this match, in my opinion. I definitely think that this TBS championship match was very, very good. Athena looked absolutely fantastic, and realistically, this was the best Jade has ever looked, and she has improved drastically ever since debuting last year. Of course, it was that match where she teamed up with Shaquille O'Neal, but she looked very well. And by the way, let's talk, I didn't mention this, but Jade's attire was basically, She-Hulk. She was basically cosplaying as She-Hulk, which was pretty dope, by the way. I actually enjoyed that as well. But Jade retains the TBS championship. Realistically, this is the question that a lot of people have to ask themselves or themselves. Who the hell is going to beat Jade? Realistically, who the hell is going to beat Jade right now? Because we all know once Jade drops that TBS championship, she's going straight for the World Women's Championship. She absolutely is. So that is the main question that that we have. Apparently, it was supposed to be Chris Statlander, but unfortunately, Chris Statlander got injured once again. But we're going to have to see what AEW does regarding Jade Cargill, because Jade Cargill is definitely a star, and she is definitely worthy to be Women's Champion. Alex Marvez is in the parking lot, and Punk is with Ace Steel, of course, and he's with his dog Larry. And he asks Punk if he is 100%. Punk replies that he was never 100%. He's fighting everyone, that being Jon Moxley. Moxley is fighting Chicago. He beat him once, but he won't beat him twice. I'll talk about this whole Punk versus Moxley feud because I have a lot of things to talk about that. Realistically, that's going to be clipped, in my opinion. We got Jay Lethal and the Motor City Machine Guns, Chris Sabin and Alex Shelley, taking on Dax Harwood, Cash Wheeler, FTR, and Wardlow. Of course, FTR are the Ring of Honor, AAA, and IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team Champions. Of course, Wardlow is the TNT Champion. For the past couple of weeks, they have been feuding with Wardlow has been feuding with Jay Lethal and Satnam Singh and Wardlow. I'm going to be 100% honest here. Jay Lethal, Satnam Singh, and Sanjay Dutt, for me, in a way, kind of doesn't do it for me. Jay Lethal is fantastic at what he does. He's a fantastic heel. He's fantastic in the ring. He's amazing. Sanjay Dutt, I know he has a lot of history with Jay Lethal and all that stuff. They are really close friends. But I have to get this off my chest, man. I have to get this off my chest. Bro, Sanjay Dutt on the microphone is cringe as shit. It just is. It's ridiculously cringe as hell. That's just my opinion. But overall thoughts on this match. This was not a bad match, but overall, it was not really, realistically, it wasn't a bad match at all. But yeah, man. Crap, I kind of fucked up my notes right here. Damn. There we go. Oh my God, I messed up. Damn, I literally damn. I completely deleted it. But I'll go through this match. So what happens here is Jay and Wardlow start. I literally messed up my notes. I think I deleted like one portion of my notes. Jesus Christ. Jay and Wardlow start. Jay spits in the chest of Wardlow, but then both counter each other. Wardlow then tries to powerbomb him, but the machine guns come in. Chris Sabin then tags in, but then Dax tags in. Both lock up. We get a couple of waist lock switches. Sabin then shoves the face of Dax, but then Dax pushes Sabin. Sabin then slaps Dax Harwood, but then Dax slaps him back. Both teams then brawl, but the ref separate them. Both Dax and Sabin lock up again. We get a shoulder tackle by Dax, but we get repeated rights by Dax. We get a clothesline by Dax, but then after that, Dax goes after Sanjay Dutt. Dax comes in, but then Chris Sabin picks him up. After that, we get a cover by Sabin. Then Shelley makes the tag. He splits the leg of Dax Harwood, of course, both member of the Machine Guns. The Motor City Machine Guns, I should say. Shelley is in control, but then Dax hits a furious chop, but then Dax goes for the side slam. Then after that, FTR, I should say, go for the double team on Shelley. We get a cover by Cash and a near fall. At this point, Cash is the legal man. We get a chop by Cash, and then we get an uppercut by Cash Wheeler. Wardlow makes the tag. We get a shot to the back of Shelley. Then after that, we get an overhand chop attempt by Wardlow. Wardlow then proceeds to no-sell it. Wardlow then goes for the double choke slam. The Machine Guns later escape, but then Wardlow hits the double suplex later on in the match. Lethal drags Cash. Shelley tags in. Then, Lethal would hit the double lethal injection. My apologies, guys. Literally, if I'm going a little slow, especially with this match, is by accident I portionally, kind of deleted a portion of this match. But we go for a leaping dropkick by Sabin. The Machine Guns drag Wardlow. Lethal is on the top. He drops the elbow. Lethal then goes for a cover into near fall. We get a series of kicks by the heel trio, but then Dax hits the slingshot Liger bomb on Chris Sabin. The Machine Guns, after that, after that, they go for the big rig on Alex Shelley, FTR. Lethal then goes for the lethal injection after that on both members of FTR, so he hits a double lethal injection after that. We get a headbutt by Wardlow, followed by a lariat on Lethal. Wardlow then picks up Lethal with the powerbomb, goes for the powerbomb symphony, and then he goes for the third powerbomb on Lethal. Then after that, he goes for a fourth powerbomb. We get a cover by Wardlow, and FTR beat Jay Lethal and the Motor City Machine Guns. After that, the heels come back in the ring, and it looks like they're about to target the baby faces. But what happens? The one and only Ring of Honor television champion Samoa Joe comes out after a short hiatus. I believe he was filming a show or a movie, so that was why he was out. But Samoa Joe finally makes his return. He takes out Satnam Singh. I believe he had the lead pipe in his hand. And after that, they all surround Sanjay Dutt. And what happens is Dax Harwood's daughter, of course, one of the promos that Dax cut right before their match with the Briscoes at Death Before Dishonor was, I'm going to fight like an 8-year-old girl. And what happens was in this match, you had Dax's daughter come out. And what happened was she came in and actually pinned Sanjay Dutt, which was actually pretty fantastic to say the least. I absolutely enjoyed that. All right. In our next match, we got Ricky Starks versus Powerhouse Hobbs. So really, what led us to this point? Of course, a couple of weeks prior, you had Ricky Starks defend his FTW championship against Danhausen, which was a clean victory for Ricky Starks. But what happened after that was Ricky actually wanted a legit challenger. So who comes out? None other than the cold-hearted, handsome Devil Hook. He comes out and actually beats Ricky Starks, and he became the FTW championship. And then Ricky Starks actually cut a really good babyface promo, and that led to Powerhouse Hobbs to turn on Ricky Starks. And thus we got this match happening. Overall thoughts on this match is I love the way that they're booking Powerhouse Hobbs. I think Powerhouse Hobbs is going to be realistically, he's going to be a major player, as well as Ricky Starks. Like, I'm going to be 100% honest here. I feel like the guy to dethrone Wardlow for the TNT Championship, it has to be somebody like Powerhouse Hobbs. And then later on after that, you can then run it back with Ricky Starks versus Powerhouse Hobbs for the TNT Championship. I personally would do that, but realistically, I do not know what the hell is going to be going on right now. But overall, of course, this match was really good. I felt, though, this match was a little short, to be quite honest with you, and that was the case for a couple of matches. For example, it was this match and Jade versus Athena that really went. They did not go, really that long. They kind of like cut time off of those matches. But overall, it was a really good match. Of course, Powerhouse Hobbs got the win. They're really building Powerhouse Hobbs as this unstoppable dude right here. But let's break down the match real quick. Both immediately fight it out. We get a running forearm by Starks. Hobbs then immediately fights back and knocks him down. Hobbs then is in control over Ricky Starks, but then we get a suplex by Hobbs on Starks. Then Hobbs mock starts doing his signature pose, which was absolutely hilarious. Then after that, Starks proceeds to fight back, but Hobbs sends Starks to the post shoulder first when Starks tried to hit the spear. And again, as I've stated in previous reviews, Ricky Starks has legit, everybody talks about Edge with this spear, but realistically, today, Ricky Starks has the smoothest and the best fucking spear any wrestler can do. So he tries to hit the spear but missed, and actually lands shoulder first onto the ring post. Hobbs then later sends Starks to the guardrail, and then Hobbs picks up Starks, takes him to the top rope, and then goes for repeated shots onto the chest of Ricky Starks. Then he has him up on his shoulders, but then Starks escapes, but Hobbs hits a boot. We get a cover by Hobbs and a near fall. At this point, Hobbs is in control. We get a knee by Hobbs, and then he targets the neck of Ricky Starks. Then Hobbs takes Starks and then misses the lariat, but then Hobbs tries to run chest first onto Hobbs accidentally runs chest first onto the turnbuckle. Starks goes for a couple of right hands. Then after that, Starks gets reversed. Starks escapes. Then after that, he hits the back elbow on Hobbs, followed by the tornado. I believe it was a tornado DDT. Backdrop by Hobbs, but Starks lands on his knees. Starks then ducks the lariat, but then gets caught with the spine buster. This was the moment where Hobbs absolutely took out Ricky Starks. So he hits him with a furious spine buster. And after that, we get a cover, and Hobbs wins the match. Legit, that quick, he beat Ricky Starks. Do I see a rematch happening in the near future? Absolutely. I definitely see that being the case. We're just going to have to wait and see what the hell they're going to be doing regarding this feud, because I genuinely believe that this feud is absolutely not over, and definitely I see Powerhouse Hobbs being the one, in my opinion at least, to dethrone Wardlow for the TNT Championship, because I love the way that they're presenting Powerhouse Hobbs, and Powerhouse Hobbs is let's be realistic. Powerhouse Hobbs is going to be a star. Not only Powerhouse Hobbs, Ricky Starks himself. This guy is super charismatic. He's not only good in the ring, man. This guy is super charismatic. His character work is absolutely fantastic. And he can legit be either a really good heel or a really good babyface. In this case, he was a really good babyface here. And Hobbs is a fucking menacing heel right there. That's just the match. That's just like the match truth right there. We got another match that I wasn't really that interested in, because I realistically thought that Swerve and Our Glory were going to retain the titles. But after watching this match, man, this match was definitely the best match of the entire card. Realistically, because of the fact that, number one, man, the Acclaimed in this match were super. And I mean this to the bottom of my heart, man. These guys were super over with the crowd. Like, they were chanting, "Scissor me, daddy." They were chanting all this type of crazy shit, which was absolutely freaking hilarious and funny as hell. But, man, Max Caster and Anthony Bowens looked absolutely fantastic. Swerve and Our Glory. They looked very heelish tonight, but, I mean, of course, they're not actual heels. They're baby faces, but in a way, they were kind of in hostile territory, because the crowd in Chicago was very pro for the Acclaimed. And not only that, man, the inclusion of Billy Gunn with the Acclaimed is absolutely, for me, the inclusion of Billy Gunn in the Acclaimed is very fun, in my opinion. He really made the Acclaimed much more, I mean, the Acclaimed are always enjoyable, but, like, Billy Gunn is that one guy that adds, like, a little more spark to the Acclaimed, which I really enjoy. And the whole Scissor Me Daddy is absolutely hilarious. That is absolutely funny. So, the match starts. We get a waistlock by Bowens on Swerve. Then we get a waistlock takedown by Bowens. Again, we get the "Oh, Scissor Me Daddy" chants. After that, we get a roll-up by Bowens. We get a near fall. And then we get a roll-up once again, and then we get a near fall. Swerve goes for the head scissors, and then Keith Lee makes the tag. Caster then makes the tag, and then we get a waistlock by Caster, followed by a side headlock. Then Caster lands on his feet with the hip toss attempt. Caster goes for the dropkick, but then Lee throws him into the corner. Caster then goes to the top, but then hits a Hurricane Rana on Keith Lee. We get a sunset flip by Caster, but then Lee tries to hit the overhand chop. Caster instead goes for the dropkick, and then Bowens goes for the dropkick. And then the Acclaimed hit the drop kick of their own. Then, after that, the Acclaimed scissor each other like this, which was hilarious. Funny as shit. Then, after that, Keith Lee goes for a right hand. Then Lee goes for the crossbody onto the back of Caster. We get a cover by Lee and a kick out by Caster. Swerve then makes the tag. He works on Caster, but then we get a cover by Swerve and a near fall. Then Lee goes for the double overhand chops on Caster when Swerve held on to him. Lee takes Caster to the top, and then he gets back elbowed by Max Caster. Then he goes for the diving cutter off the top on Keith Lee. At this point, the hot tag is made. He goes for the ripcord neckbreaker, that being Anthony Bowens on Swerve. We get a running elbow, or I should say a rolling elbow, by Anthony Bowens after that. Then he goes for the brainbuster. We get a cover into near fall, and after that, Bowens goes to the second rope but misses. Bowens then goes for the thrust kick attempt, and then he kicks on Swerve. After that, he lands the knee lift, but Bowens at this point sells his knee, so it looked like at this point of the match, Bowens actually injured his knee. I don't know if it's legit or not. My guess is that it's not really an actual injury. I may be wrong. If I am wrong, please correct me if I am wrong. So Bowens is selling his knee. Swerve then grabs the knee and takes him to the outside. Swerve then goes for the baseball slide, knocking out Bowens. Swerve and Billy face off, but then Swerve takes Bowens in the ring. We get a cover and a near fall. At this point, Swerve targets the knee of Bowens. Lee then tags in. Swerve picks up Bowens, but then Swerve and Our Glory hit the knee breaker after that. Then Lee hits the splash. We get a cover and a near fall. Lee goes for the splash into the corner. We get a double overhand chop by Lee on Bowens into the corner. He then throws him across the ring after that. Bowens gets up. He fights off Lee, but then after that, Bowens goes to the top, but then Bowens proceeds to fight back. Bowens then goes for the flipping neckbreaker. Caster then makes the tag. Swerve, after that, makes the tag as well. He takes out Swerve with the backdrop, but then takes him to the outside. We get a crossbody on the outside by Max Caster. He goes for the top and hits the crossbody on Lee. And then we get a cover and a near fall. After that, we get repeated back elbows by the Acclaimed. Bowens then collapses, selling his knee once again. This was a common occurrence throughout the entirety of the whole match. So he sells his knee. Caster then tries to pick up Lee, but then Lee, by accident, pounces Swerve. So, right there, the first time where Swerve and Lee kind of had a little bit of miscommunication during the match. After that, Caster then goes for the chop block, followed by the knee strike. We get a cover by Caster and a near fall. At this point, Lee goes for the headbutt on Anthony Bowens, and then he takes Caster to the outside. After that, we get a back elbow by Bowens. He works on Lee, but sells his knee. After that, Lee goes for a kick, but then Caster runs up top. He proceeds to fight off Keith Lee, but then Bowens comes up as well. We get a double overhand chop by the Acclaimed. Both hit a double superplex off the top. After that, Swerve hits the Swerve Stomp out of nowhere on Anthony Bowens. We get a cover and a near fall, but then Swerve goes for the single leg Boston Crab attempt. He tries to go target the injured knee of Anthony Bowens, but then Caster goes for a dropkick on Swerve. Caster then makes the tag, but then we get a roll-up by Swerve. Swerve then goes, hits the kick onto the head of Caster. We get a cover and a near fall, but then Swerve goes for the springboard, but Bowens grabs the ankle. He takes him to the apron, but then Caster goes to the top. Then Caster hits the mic drop off the top onto the outside. After that, Bowens lands on his knee once again. Lee comes in. Then he hits a double overhand chop after that. But then Billy Gunn interferes and goes face-to-face with Keith Lee. Then we get fuck him up, Billy, fuck him up chance, which the crowd is amazing. We get a thrust kick by Caster on Keith Lee. Caster then picks up Lee. And then this was one of my favorite portions of the entire match, man. Caster, we all know how great Max Caster is. He is so great that John Cena acknowledged him on Instagram. And what better way to give back to John Cena than pay homage to John Cena? And that's basically exactly what Max Caster did in this match. So Max Caster picks up Keith Lee and hits the fucking FU, aka the attitude adjustment, on Keith Lee. That was hilarious. I don't care what anybody says. I absolutely loved the hell out of that. But he hits the FU. We get a cover, but then Bowens takes him out. Caster then goes for the mic drop, but then we get a cover engineer fall when Lee comes in and interferes. Then Swerve goes for the Death Valley driver on Caster onto the apron. Then Bones targets the knee. Or I should say one of the members, I completely forgot. I messed up my notes. I literally wrote Bones targets the knee of Bones. We get a backbreaker by Bones. Bones then goes for the right, but then Bones fights off Swerve and Lee. Swerve, by accident, kicks Keith Lee. Bones then goes for the roll-up, and we get a close-ass near fall. At this point, Bones then takes out Swerve, but then Bones is up on his shoulders. After that, Lee catches him. Swerve and Our Glory take them out, and then Lee and Swerve take them out, and basically what happens is they win the match. Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland win and retain the AEW World Tag Team Championships. Overall thoughts on this match. This was by far one of the, again, as I've stated earlier while I was talking and breaking down the trios match, this was by far one of the best matches of the entire night, bar none, considering the fact that, number one, the Acclaimed are absolutely super over. They got super over to the point where people were actually begging. I wouldn't necessarily say begging, but they got so over to the point where people were like, bro, you need to call an audible right now and change the finish of this match and put the fucking belts on the Acclaimed. And I will agree. I will say they should have put the belts on the Acclaimed considering the fact that they are right now super over. But I genuinely believe that it's not too late yet, because you got Grand Slam coming up, and you also got Full Gear happening in November in New Jersey, which I will most likely be attending. So, I mean, you can give them the titles there. My best guess is that we're going to see a rematch between these two, because this is not over, man. After the reaction that the Acclaimed got tonight, there's no denying that we're possibly going to be seeing a rematch for the Tag Team Championships, and the Acclaimed would go over. My guess, we're going to be getting the rematch at Dynamite's Grand Slam. Hopefully it happens. Britt Baker versus Jamie Hayter versus Hikaru Shida versus Toni Storm for the Interim AEW. The Interim AEW Women's World Championship. Tony Khan loves his interim championships, man. This is the fourth freaking time we have an interim champion in AEW in the span of less than a fucking year. The first time happened at Battle of the Belts with Cody Rhodes. Of course, he was originally scheduled to face Sammy Guevara at the first Battle of the Belts, but then Cody got sick due to COVID, and what happened was they crowned an interim champion when Cody was out after only one fucking week. The second time was the interim ROH Women's Championship. Of course, Mercedes Martinez beat Willow Nightingale at Supercard of Honor, so she did win the interim Women's ROH Championship. And then she later unified it with Deonna Purrazzo, wrestling her on Dynamite. And then after that, Punk got injured realistically in stupid fashion. And what happened was they crowned an interim AEW World Champion. And now Thunder Rosa is now injured, and she will now be an interim championship. Overall thoughts on that, man. Like, AEW, again, love their interim championships, man. I mean, realistically, it's getting to the point where it's getting repetitive. Like, what if the world champion or any champion gets injured again? What, we're going to see an interim champion for that? Realistically, just have them like relinquish it, or just be like, you know, have a hiatus with a championship. I don't know why, but I get why they do the interim championships, but at the same time, I'm just like, bro, this is the fourth time we had an interim champion. But we had Britt Baker, Jamie Hayter, Hikaru Shida, and Toni Storm. Overall thoughts on this match. This was a really, really good match in my opinion. I definitely enjoyed this match for what it was. It was a great match overall. I definitely felt that, to be quite honest with you, you know, I'm glad that Britt Baker didn't win, because I really did not want to see Britt Baker as champion again. Jamie Hayter could have been a possibility, but I really don't think they were going to put the belt on Jamie Hayter at this point. Really, the two logical choices, if not the only logical choice, was going to be Toni Storm. Of course, Toni Storm and Thunder Rosa have some sort of partnership going on. Of course, they are forming this tag team called Thunderstorm, and they were teaming together for the past couple of weeks on television. And yeah, man. And then, you know, Thunder Rosa eventually, you know, went down to injury. We do not know when Thunder Rosa is going to be coming back, but my guess is possibly in the next couple weeks, maybe the next couple months. I have absolutely no idea. But again, there will be a unification match between Thunder Rosa and Toni Storm for both women's championships. This is my thought on Thunder Rosa's title reign, man. In my opinion, I feel like Thunder Rosa's title reign has been quite lackluster, and it's not Thunder Rosa's fault. It is absolutely not Thunder Rosa's fault. It's the booking. The way that they have been booking Thunder Rosa, in my opinion, has been quite trash. You know, really, realistically, she hasn't been getting a lot of TV time as of late throughout these past couple months. And if you really think about it, she is the women's champion, and she's really not the center of attention. That's just my opinion, but Thunder Rosa's title reign, in my opinion, realistically hasn't been good. Her matches were fantastic, but her title reign itself was just not good at all. So we got the four-way, and the four-way, let me drink this water real quick because, bro, it's been almost an hour already, and, like, dude, I'm telling you, man, like, this show is super freaking long. Literally, my throat is getting dry at this point just talking to you guys. And I don't want to say ring rust, but I got a little bit of talking rust, if that is a word, considering the fact that I haven't been doing this for a couple months now. And, you know, it's great to be back because I've really wanted to do this. And the reason why, I forgot to mention it, the reason why I changed the podcast to the Wrestle Havoc podcast, I felt like, you know, since I'm talking about wrestling should be a part of the title of the podcast. So, yeah, that was a little break that I took off of there, man. Again, man, bro, this show is extremely long that, holy shit, like, I needed to drink freaking water because I've been talking right now for 55 freaking minutes. That is a long, and I mean a long-ass time. So, Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter versus Hikaru Shida versus Toni Storm in the four-way. Again, great match overall. You know, again, this is a pure example of AEW having a match after a banger match and actually succeeding with it. They definitely succeeded with this match. I was very worried on how this match was going to be. I don't want to necessarily say, what is the right word to choose? Received by fans, considering the fact that, you know, again, it's happening right after, you know, the amazing match with the Acclaimed and Swerve in Our Glory. But the women absolutely did not disappoint, and definitely the right woman won. Jamie Hayter takes Shida to the outside. Jamie and Storm fight it out. We get a shotgun dropkick by Storm. Storm then goes for a couple of shots onto the back of Jamie Hayter, but then Britt drags Storm to the outside. Shida then comes in and hits a right on Britt Baker. Shida then goes for the running knee, and then goes to the second rope, but then Britt grabs her hand. We get a roll-up by Jamie Hayter and a near fall. We get a roll-up attempt by basically everybody. Hayter then applies the single leg Boston Crab on Hikaru Shida, but then Britt tries to apply the lockjaw, but then Storm comes in. Storm then goes over to Hayter and targets the hand of Jamie Hayter, but then Britt goes for a thrust kick, taking out Toni Storm. Britt then tries to go for the lockjaw on Shida, but then Shida escapes. Baker then goes for the sling blade. After that, she goes for the sling blade on Storm, but then Storm goes for the cover. Shida then fights off Britt, but then picks her up. Then hits a backbreaker on Britt Baker. We get a right elbow by Shida by Hayter. After that, we get running back elbows by Hayter on both Storm and Shida onto each other. And then they both she hits the double sledge on both after that. Followed by a double suplex on Shida and Storm. Then she goes for the double lariat. Then after that, Hayter goes for a chop on Storm, but then Hayter runs into the outside, which opens Storm to hit the suicide dive on Jamie Hayter. Then Baker then hits the sling blade on Storm onto the outside. After that, Shida then hits the dropkick on Baker, but then Baker sends Britt to the guardrail. Shida and Storm at this point are in the ring. Storm and Shida counter each other when it came to their moves. After that, we get a side headlock by Storm, but then we get a shoulder tackle by Storm. Shida then gets up, but stumbles. After that, Shida goes for the shoulder tackle of her own. Both exchange shots. Rebel then enters the fray, but then both Toni Storm and Hikaru Shida headbutt Rebel. After that, Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter come in from behind. Rebel then takes Storm headfirst to the middle turnbuckle, but then Baker and Jamie Hayter double team on Toni Storm. After that, Baker goes to the outside and proceeds to target Hikaru Shida. And what happens after that is Hayter picks up Shida up. She picks her up and walks her up the ramp and drops her onto the stage. Now, we do not know what the hell is going to happen, and also this match is no disqualification. So realistically, we do not know what the hell is going to happen. So they're going up on the ramp, and then Britt gets the kendo stick. Of course, that is Hikaru Shida's kendo stick, and hits it on... after that, she hits it on... I believe she hit it on Shida, but then after that, Britt goes for the stomp instead on Shida onto the ramp. But then Britt leaves the kendo stick on Shida. After that, they leave. Then, at this point, Shida is checked by all of the doctors and gets taken to the back. So, realistically, Shida got taken out by both Jamie Hayter and Britt Baker throughout this portion of the match. But that wasn't the case. After that, Storm is in the ring and she's getting choked at this point by Jamie Hayter. Shida then gets taken out to the back. Storm is getting dominated at this point in the match by Baker and Hayter. Britt then runs face first to the turnbuckle. Storm then goes to the top and hits a crossbody. We get a cover into near fall, but then the heels gain the advantage. Storm fights off Hayter and Britt Baker. Both hit a double suplex on Storm. Then Shida comes in with 2 kendo sticks. So she comes back and she's walking down the ramp. She got 2 kendo sticks. Again, this match is a 4-way, so there's no disqualification. So she goes after Baker and Hayter. She sends Baker on Hayter into the corner. After that, Shida goes for repeated rights onto the second rope on both Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter at the same time. Shida then goes for the back suplex. She goes for the suplex, but on Baker, on Hayter into the corner. Then suplexes Hayter off the top. We get a cover into near fall, but then Hayter goes for. What happened was Shida tries to go for the katana, but then Hayter counters. Then Hayter goes for the overhand shot, but then we get a couple of thrust kicks by Baker. Storm then comes in, but then we get a backbreaker by Hayter. Hayter and Baker then go for the weird double pin attempt, and this is realistically where the tension started to happen between both Jamie Hayter and Britt Baker, and it was really all due to Britt Baker's fault, of course, in kayfabe. So what happens is Storm enters the fray. At this point, all 4 women are down. Both Shida and Storm exchange shots with both Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter. Shida then regains control, but then Shida hits the Falcon Arrow. We get a cover and a near fall, but then Storm hits the German suplex on Shida. After that, she hits a German on Britt Baker, and we get a near fall. After that, Hayter hits the Tombstone pile driver. After that, we got a cover and a near fall when Shida hits the Meteora. After that, Baker goes for the super kick and then goes for the twisting neck breaker. Baker then hits the curve stomp. We get a cover and a near fall. Storm takes Baker to the outside, but then Hayter goes for the ripcord lariat on Hikaru Shida. And we get a cover and a near fall. So Hayter is actually going for the cover in this match. But what actually happened was when Hayter went for the cover, Britt Baker was actually on the outside and drags the referee out, and that actually pissed off Jamie Hayter. So what happens after that, Hayter gets pissed. We get a spike pile driver by Toni Storm, but then Baker comes in and covers Jamie Hayter. So really, Britt Baker is showing her true nature right here. We get a cover and a kick out by Jamie Hayter. Yes, Jamie Hayter kicked out of Britt Baker. And then we get a cover and a near fall. Storm goes for the DDT on Baker and then proceeds to hit the Storm Zero. We get a cover and Toni Storm wins the match, and Toni Storm is the new AEW Interim Women's Championship. Overall thoughts on this match. This was a really, really good women's match. Again, for a match that had to follow the Tag Team Championship match, this match was really good. And in my opinion, I genuinely believe that it was definitely the right decision to put the belt on Toni Storm, considering the fact that we've already seen a title change with Britt Baker. And not only that, you not only have one program really set in stage once Thunder Rosa comes back, because really the money match is going to be Thunder Rosa versus Toni Storm. They are going to unify those championships, and those women are going to have a program. And they had a tremendous match back at Forbidden Door. But, who knows what the hell is going to be happening once Thunder Rosa comes back, because, again, Thunder Rosa's title reign, in my opinion, has been quite lackluster, in my opinion. And it's not her fault. Again, it's the booking's fault. Hopefully, once she comes back, the booking with Thunder Rosa can be much, much better. And another thing is the fact that, when it comes to Toni Storm and Thunder Rosa, a lot of people are speculating this, and I really can't deny this. Thunder Rosa realistically should turn heel, and Tony Storm should be the babyface. That is realistically what a lot of people and myself are saying, but we'll have to wait and see. But another beauty of this entire match is the fact that they really set the stage for Jamie Hayter to split away from Britt Baker, because what happened near the end of that match with when Britt Baker, of course, tried to drag the referee out and Hayter actually saw it, and then when Britt Baker actually tried to pin Jamie Hayter, again, tensions are rising within the group, and that's definitely setting the stage for a potential, most likely, Britt Baker versus Jamie Hayter program. I think right now it's time. It's been over a year since Jamie Hayter, joined Britt Baker. Of course, that was on the very first Rampage when Britt Baker faced off against Red Velvet for the Women's Championship in Pittsburgh in the main event. Of course, Jamie Hayter came in at the end of the show and attacked Red Velvet and everybody else. So we're going to have to wait and see what AEW does with that, but you already set the stage for 2 possible programs. Well, actually, no, 1 guaranteed program. We're definitely getting a program with Tony Storm and Thunder Rosa. Of course, we already had their first match already, but we're definitely getting the unification match. But you also set up another program when it comes to Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter. Now it's set. Now, really, the main question is how AEW is going to work this out. Christian Cage versus Jungle Boy. Boy, oh boy, man. This feud is absolutely intense, man. You got Jungle Boy, first Christian Cage turning on Jungle Boy. And then you got Luchasaurus turn on Jungle Boy at Blood and Guts. I wouldn't necessarily say turn on Jungle Boy. He just joined Christian Cage. And then at the Shark Week edition of Dynamite, you had literally Luchasaurus just trick Christian Cage. So they basically, in a way, Russo swerved us, which I thought was really lame in my opinion. I'm like, really? You spent all this time doing, this new music for Luchasaurus, this new attire, and it barely lasted a long-ass time? But, of course, what happened here was Luchasaurus tricked us all once again. So Jack's family is in the front row, and the mother actually slaps Christian Cage. So Jungle Boy comes out and does his entrance, and he points at one of the tunnels, at the babyface tunnel, and he calls for Luchasaurus. But what happens is Luchasaurus from behind attacks Jungle Boy. So he attacks Jungle Boy and choke slams him onto the steel portion of the stage. And what happens after that is the doctors try to attend Jungle Boy, but then Luchasaurus comes in and drags Jungle Boy to the ringside area. And then what happens is he power bombs him through the timekeeper's table. So realistically, we got a match, but it was a really short match. Realistically, the whole story of the match was Jungle Boy got beat to shit. And then after that, the doctors try to attend Jungle Boy, but what happens is Jungle Boy actually tells Aubrey Edwards, the referee, to ring the bell. But what happens is Cage goes for an immediate spear. Then after that, what happens? We get a cover and a kick out by Jungle Boy. And then he goes for the kill switch, and then we get a cover by Cage, and Cage immediately wins the match. Overall thoughts on this, realistically, I like the way that they did this. Of course, we are going to be getting, Christian Cage versus Jungle Boy in the near future in an actual legitimate match. But also, I really want to see Jungle Boy versus Luchasaurus. I hope to God we get that match some point down the line in the future, because in my opinion, I genuinely think that this feud between Christian Cage and Jungle Boy has been absolutely fantastic, and I love Christian Cage's heel work. I absolutely love Christian Cage's heel work, and I just love I don't want to say edginess, but like the way Christian Cage speaks is crazy, and he sounds like a guy that, you want to slap the shit out of. But overall, that was great. We got the Lionheart versus the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson versus Chris Jericho. This was a match that a lot of people were definitely anticipating for, and rightfully so. I was definitely excited for this match. The build for this match was really good. Of course, we had those 2 matches with Bryan Danielson and Daniel Garcia. Of course, the first match in which Daniel Garcia actually beat Bryan Danielson with the help of Jericho and the Jericho Appreciation Society. And of course, the second match, which was absolutely freaking amazing, which was the 2 out of 3 falls match that they had a couple of weeks prior on Dynamite. That match was amazing as well. And, this whole build towards, the American Dragon versus Lionheart, not only that, the inclusion of Daniel Garcia is really a good story to tell. And I really love what they're doing with Daniel Garcia. And another thing is we actually are going to be getting a rematch from Death Before Dishonor. We are going to be getting Wheeler Yuta defending his Pure Championship this Wednesday on Dynamite against Daniel Garcia. And it was after this match, after, of course, Jericho was the one that beat Danielson, which a lot of fans definitely viewed as kind of questionable, and realistically, I cannot blame them at all. That was definitely a very questionable move, and Garcia was realistically, backstage throughout the entire night. He didn't have any, he wasn't really involved at all throughout the entire match. He was just staring backstage at the match. But overall, man, this match was absolutely fantastic, and the build for this match was really good. Now, granted, one of the biggest gripes that I had for this match was, even though the match was really good, I feel like the crowd was kind of died down a little bit in some portions of this match. Don't get me wrong, the crowd was going apeshit. I feel like they were kind of saving their energy for both CM Punk and MJF later on in the show. But overall, I mean, again, the crowd was kind of dead in many portions of this match. But again, the match still delivered. It was, as advertised, it was a flat-out wrestling match. All right. So the match starts, both lock up, Jericho flips off the crowd. Danielson then catches Jericho and kicks his head in, but then Jericho goes to the outside. Jericho then slaps Danielson, but then both lock up. He chops Danielson into the corner. Both lock up. We get a waist lock by Danielson. Jericho then goes to the top rope, but then he goes to the corner. Danielson misses the chop, but then Jericho hits a chop and hits his own in the corner. Danielson then wipes the pain off, and then both lock up. Jericho then goes for the wrist lock, but then Danielson goes for, it looked like a Northern Light suplex. After that, Jericho goes for the head scissors on Danielson. After that, Danielson escapes and targets the knees of Jericho. Then Danielson tries to apply the Romero special on Jericho, but Jericho escapes. But then Danielson goes for a right hand. Both exchange shots while Danielson is on top of him. After that, Danielson applies the cross arm breaker / Jujikatami. After that, Jericho goes for repeated elbows, but then Jericho goes for the Russian leg sweep. At this point, Danielson mocks Jericho for being a sports entertainer by kind of dancing around, and JR on commentary was hilarious during this. That's exactly what he says. Danielson is mocking Jericho for being a sports entertainer, I guess. So then we got a roll-up and a near fall. Jericho then goes for repeated rights into the corner. We get a furious right by Chris Jericho, followed by a backbreaker. Jericho then hits the side slam on Bryan Danielson. We get a cover and a near fall. Jericho then slaps Danielson around. So he slaps Danielson around. Danielson actually gets up on his feet. He goes for repeated uppercuts after that. We get a shoulder tackle by Jericho, but then Danielson is up on the apron. Jericho then goes for the springboard dropkick, knocking Danielson onto the outside. Then Jericho misses by trying to take out Danielson onto the outside. Danielson then goes for the running knee strike on the outside. From the apron, Danielson goes to the top. Danielson then after that goes for the shotgun dropkick on Chris Jericho. Then he goes and proceeds to hit the one and only yes kicks. Then he misses the third one and Jericho tries to apply the lion tamer. But then Jericho runs face first to the middle turnbuckle. Bryan then fights back with repeated kicks. Then he takes him up. Danielson also goes up the top rope and then tries to go for a Hurricane Rana, but Jericho counters and applies the walls, which in my opinion was a great way to counter a move, by the way. Danielson with the Hurricane Rana attempt, and Jericho was like, nope, bitch, I'm applying the walls on your ass. So he applies the walls of Jericho. Danielson with the inside cradle. Jericho then runs into the corner, taking himself to the outside. Danielson then hits a suicide dive into the corner. Danielson after that hits a couple of chops and kicks in the corner onto the outside. He takes him back into the ring. Danielson goes to the top, but then Jericho chops Danielson, who is on the top. Then Jericho goes for repeated rights, but then Danielson goes for the headbutt, knocking Jericho down to the mat. Danielson misses the flying headbutt after that. Then Jericho goes for his first attempt at the lion salt, but Danielson's knees were up. After that, Danielson applies the label lock. Then Jericho escapes, but then catapults Danielson onto the outside. But what happens is Danielson uses his hands and the ropes and comes back. Both try to go for a tombstone pile driver, but both kept on reversing. But at the end of that exchange, Jericho was the one that actually managed to hit the tombstone pile driver on Bryan Danielson. After that, after hitting the Tombstone Piledriver, Jericho then hits the second attempt at the line salt. We get a cover by Jericho and a near fall. Jericho then goes for a running punt kick on Danielson. After that, Danielson counters the Judas effect with the series of kicks on Jericho. Jericho then goes down, but then Jericho kicks the head out of Danielson. Danielson then applies the lapel lock on Jericho. I should say Danielson kicked the head out of Jericho. So Danielson applies the lapel lock. After that, Jericho tries to roll over, but Danielson reverses and applies it once again. Danielson rolls over once again, but then Jericho hits repeated elbows. Jericho then applies the walls of Jericho, but then Danielson with the kicks on Jericho. Then he applies the triangle sleeper on Jericho. Jericho then goes to the top rope. Both Jericho and Danielson are exchanging chops. Danielson then proceeds to gain the advantage. We get a strike and a kick by Bryan Danielson. Danielson then proceeds to land on his feet. So after that, Danielson runs into a code breaker by Jericho. Then we get a cover by Jericho into a near fall. Then Jericho applies the Lion Tamer on Danielson, I should say. Danielson is about to fade, but he actually does not. Jericho then goes for repeated rights on Danielson. He goes for a release German suplex after that. He hits a repeated elbows on Danielson. A little nod right there, of course, to the Blackpool Combat Club in a way kind of mocking them. After that, Jericho goes for a German, but Danielson actually managed to land on his feet. Then Danielson goes for the Psycho knee. Danielson applies the cat mutilation. Then Danielson transitions it into repeated elbows. Danielson then transitions once again into the cat mutilation. So this is the second attempt of the cat mutilation. Jericho then gets his foot onto the bottom rope, but then Danielson goes for repeated kicks to the back of Chris Jericho. Then the ref separates him. We get a roll-up by Jericho, and then we get a rolling elbow by Danielson. Both hit repeated elbows. Oh, I should say, then he hits repeated elbows, I should say, on Jericho. Then Danielson takes him to the corner, but then without the referee looking, Jericho hits the low blow on Danielson, and then he hits the Judas effect. Jericho cheats to beat Bryan Danielson in this all-time match with the American Dragon versus Lionheart. Overall thoughts on this match? Great match. Again, I feel like the crowd was kind of quiet throughout this match. And in a way, I don't want to say rightfully so, but at the same time, I feel like they were kind of burnt out and they were kind of saving a little bit of steam for what the hell was going to happen in the end of the show, because we all know what happened at the end of the show. Then we get House of Black versus Sting, Darby Allin, and Miro. Now, apparently, this match is going to be Malachi Black's last match in AEW. Apparently, what happened after the cameras went off after this match, Malachi Black bowed down and gave a standing ovation. Got a standing ovation from the crowd. So those reports of Malachi Black requesting his AEW release are absolutely true. But it's not for what people think, because a lot of people are thinking what Zero News stated, because Zero News is absolutely false in whatever they report. Do not get your news sources or do not get your wrestling news from Zero News, because they're absolutely fucking fake. The real reason as to why Malachi Black and a lot of other sources, I believe, confirm this, the reason why Malachi Black is requesting his release from AEW is to deal with his mental health. So take a break, Malachi Black. Hopefully you'll get better, because, again, man, mental health is very important, and, hopefully he gets better. But that's why he's requesting his release. But overall thoughts on this match, this was a pretty good match. I completely forgot that this match happened. I'm not really going to talk a lot about it, because I got to wrap this up fast, and I got to talk about the main event. But overall, pretty good match. Of course, there was a little bit of tension going on regarding Miro, Darby Allin, and Sting. But, Sting looked absolutely great. Darby Allin was fantastic. Again, as always, Miro looked great. One thing I will say, though, is I actually thought CJ Perry was going to come in, but that actually wasn't the case. So that's actually very shocking to me. But, so Miro and Black start the match. Both lock up. Miro goes after Brody King. The House of Black then proceed to gang up on Miro. Then Black gets taken to the corner. Miro then runs into a boot by Black. Buddy then proceeds to tag in, but then Miro counters and hits a Northern Light suplex. Darby then offers to tag in, but Miro refuses. Buddy then goes off the second rope with the crossbody attempt, but then Miro catches him and gets planted in the ring. Then after that, Buddy makes the tag, but then we get a kick by Buddy Matthews. Darby then goes for the blind tag. He goes for the coffin splash attempt, but Buddy counters. But then Darby goes for the roll-up. We get repeated strikes by Darby. Darby then tries to go for the code red, but then Malachi immediately hits a roundhouse kick. Then Black at this point is the legal man. He hits a running kick on Darby. Then we get a cover and a near fall. Brody King then makes the tag. We get a couple of chops, and Darby goes to the bottom corner turnbuckle. After that, he throws him to the other corner and then takes him to the top rope and chops him when he drops him to the outside. After that, King sends Darby to the guardrail. King then chops Darby, but then he sends him to the other side of the ringside area. Darby then goes back into the ring. Malachi Black makes the tag. Black at this point is the legal man. He works on Darby, but then both knock each other down with their respective right hands. Buddy Matthews makes the tag. He chops Darby into the corner, and then he chops him again. Darby tries to fight back, but he tries to tag in one of his partners, but then Buddy holds him back. Buddy then goes for the pump-up knee, but then Buddy takes Sting to the outside. Darby then tags Miro. So he tries to go after them, but then the referee pulls him back. Darby then goes for the code red attempt, but then Sting makes the tag. He takes out both King and Buddy Matthews. We get a Stinger Splash. Then he first does the Stinger Splash on Buddy, and then he goes on Brody King. Sting then goes for the trip, and then Brody cannonballs Buddy Matthews by accident. King is on the apron and chokeslams him, but then Sting counters with the stunner attempt. Then Sting faces off with Malachi Black, and the crowd goes absolutely apeshit for this. So then the crowd gets up on their feet. We get a bunch of Sting chants, so Sting is super over. Of course he is. He's Sting. What do you expect? Both fight it out. Kick to the knee of Sting, but then Sting fires back with the Scorpion Deathlock on Black. But then Buddy comes in, but then Sting no-sells the kick. Then King comes in, and Sting still no-sells the right, and he still has the Scorpion Deathlock applied. So then Malachi applies the knee bar, but then Miro drags Malachi from his hair, but Buddy hits a running kick. Brody King makes the tag, and then after that, the house picks up Sting, but then Sting escapes. We get a Scorpion Death Drop on King, and then Darby goes for the coffin drop. We get a cover and a near fall when Buddy makes the save. We get a chop block hitting Sting. Miro kicks King onto the outside. Miro then runs into Sting's baseball bat, hit by Buddy Matthews. After that, Darby goes for the stunner on Buddy, but then Darby hits a cannonball suicide dive. Black then goes into the ring with Sting. Sting then no-sells the black mask, and Sting spits the mist of Malachi Black. It looked like Malachi Black was going to go for the black mask, but that actually wasn't the case. Sting actually spit the mist of Black, and then after that, Darby pins Malachi Black. This is the second time Malachi Black actually got pinned. He got pinned during the Trios tournament by the Dark Order, which Malachi was the one to get pinned, which is insane, and he actually got pinned in this match, which really and realistically doesn't sit well. I mean, I believe from what we saw, or we didn't see, that was leaked by a bunch of fans on social media, Malachi Black is on his way out to AEW. Now, if he's on his way out, what is Brody King and Buddy Matthews going to do? We are going to have to wait and see, but again, we do not know what's happening there. But again, overall thoughts on this match. This was that one match that realistically was a really good match, but I forgot was on the card because of the fact of how long this show was. Daniel Garcia, of course, is backstage. Jericho comes in, of course. He asks Garcia why he didn't celebrate with him, and he says that he will be wrestling Yuta for the Pure Championship, and says that they won't be in his corner. I feel like some mess up is going to happen, and I feel like the Jericho Appreciation Society are actually going to be the ones that turn on Garcia and actually cost him the championship. That is what I think is going to be happening, but we're going to have to wait and see. All right, we're now going to go to the creme de la creme. CM Punk versus Jon Moxley for the AEW World Championship. Now, before I get on with this match, I'm going to be talking about my thoughts on the way AEW and Tony Khan transpired when it came to the build for this match, because there was a lot of issues. I wouldn't necessarily say issues, but a lot of confusion into the build for this matchup. So what happened, when I'm saying matchup, I feel like I'm working for WWE, Jesus Christ. So let's talk about their first match. Now, if you guys do not know, which you guys should know, Punk and Moxley were originally scheduled to wrestle at this pay-per-view, which happened. And when Punk came back, AEW did something very weird. They announced that they were going to be putting this match on free television. It was going to be Punk versus Moxley in the unification match. And when they announced it, I was shocked, skeptical, and pissed off. The reason why I say those three words is because of the fact that, number one, this is your pay-per-view match, and you're giving it away on free TV. Now, there was pros and cons regarding this whole situation, this whole match being booked on television. The pro was that this match was taking place in Cleveland. Cleveland has a very rough history with CM Punk, storyline-wise. So this basically worked storyline-wise. Cleveland was the same city that CM Punk walked out of WWE on. And Cleveland was the same city where he lost his UFC fight at. So Cleveland is really not friendly to CM Punk. So that was the pro, and the reason realistically why they booked this match is because of the fact that they really wanted to focus on the story. But another thing about this was the con was, and this was the major con was, this was 100% a ratings ploy. And the problem I have with that is, yes, you're going to get 1 million viewers, but really the importance is not this week. Are those same viewers that watched what we actually saw in that match, are they going to tune in the next week? And that was the major question, because I actually saw the quarters of this match. The majority, like, they did, I believe, a 1.0. And then right after what happened after that, really quick, less than 5-minute match that happened on Dynamite, the audience dropped up to like around the 900,000 area. So the audience realistically dropped, even though the overall number was around 1.0. And I was very concerned. I was like, dude, they're not going to hit 1 million for this go-home show. And surprisingly, they actually did hit 1 million for this go-home show, which was very weird. That was a major risk that Tony Khan absolutely took. And he really focused more on the storyline aspect versus the business aspect, in my opinion, because, look, the whole match between Punk and Moxley that happened on Dynamite made sense story-wise. Business-wise, it made absolutely no sense. And I still believe, as a fan watching it, I still believe we could have easily just got this match on at the pay-per-view. But that is just what I believe. But, another thing I was thinking of is this is probably setting the stage for a Punk heel turn. And at All Out, we didn't get that. But I still believe that Punk will be turning heel. I'll talk about that later on when I go through this match and talk about MJF as well, because there's a lot of questions regarding MJF as well. But, let's talk about Punk versus Moxley. So Punk versus Moxley 2 for the AEW World Championship. So Chicago is, of course, pro CM Punk. Absolutely. It's 100% pro CM Punk. And, of course, the crowd is absolutely for CM Punk. Of course, it's his hometown. What do you expect? Mox comes out, flips off the entire crowd. Then after that, they're both in the ring. Moxley mocks the bad foot of CM Punk. Then Mox sits down and flips off CM Punk. One thing I will say about this match is this match was fantastic. This was a really, really good main event. I absolutely enjoyed this main event. It was fantastic. So Punk takes Mox to the corner. We get a couple of knees by Punk, and then we get a couple of chops in the corner. Mox reverses Punk with rights through a sea of boos. We get a roundhouse kick by Punk. Yes, he goes for the roundhouse kick, and then followed by the knees into the corner. He hits the short arm lariat, but then Punk hits the repeated elbows. He picks up Punk and then actually hits the GTS. And at this point, I'm like, they are not going to end this match fucking early. But nope, we get a cover and a near fall. Moxley goes to the outside. Punk hits the suicide dive, but then Punk fights Mox through the crowd. Both exchange shots throughout the crowd. Mox then is going up the steps, but then Punk hits Mox face first onto the guardrail. We get an elbow by Punk. Punk then takes Mox back to the ringside area. Then he takes Mox to the steel steps. At this point, the crowd is chanting for CM Punk. Then Punk picks up Moxley, but then Moxley escapes and then is sent headfirst to the ring post. At this point, Punk is busted open. And what happens after that is Mox then hits the right hand onto the outside. He gets repeated rights on Punk by Mox. Mox then goes for a kick and sends Punk headfirst onto the steel steps. And then he boots Punk. At this point, it's all Moxley during this portion of the match. Punk then goes back in the ring. Punk fights back. Mox goes for a boot. Both exchange blows. Punk is in the corner. Mox at this point is on the second rope and hits the elbow. Punk goes for a right, and then after that, he tries to go for the running bulldog. Actually, no. Punk goes for the knee strike, but then Moxley tries to go for the... Punk goes for the running bulldog, but then Mox counters and targets the injured foot of Punk. After that, Punk fights back and goes for... Punk fights back with kicking him onto the shoulder of Moxley. Moxley then goes for the stomp on Punk. After that, Mox goes for the single leg Boston Crab. Punk then tries to go onto the bottom rope, and then Mox drives the forearm onto the head of Punk. After that, Moxley continues to drive his leg. Punk then targets the eye of Moxley, but then Punk escapes. Moxley then comes in after that. After that, what happens is he hits a right on Punk. Then after that, he hits a dropkick onto the knee. Then he goes for the dragon screw. Then he applies the figure four. Punk's shoulders were down for a short period of time, but then he kicked out. Punk then flips off Moxley while he has the figure four applied on him. Mox then gets spat on. After that, Mox pile drives Punk. We get a cover into near fall. Moxley then takes Punk onto the apron, but then Mox tries to pile drive Punk onto the apron, but then Punk escapes and drops him down using Mox's arm. Punk then sends Moxley's shoulder first to the post. Punk goes for a kick on Moxley, and then Punk then, kicks the head of Mox. Then after that, applies the Anaconda Vice. Moxley then escapes and then kicks the head of Punk through a sea of boos to the crowd. Then after that, Mox misses the King Kong Lariat, but then Punk counters the leg lariat. Punk then slams Moxley. Punk then goes to the top and then gets caught after trying to hit the elbow drop. After that, Punk then drags out and applies the cross arm breaker. Moxley then reverses it into the bulldog choke. Punk then goes for a couple of kicks. Moxley then catches him with the ankle lock, but then Moxley hits the German suplex after Punk lands on the rope. Moxley then flips off the crowd. Then he hits the roundhouse kick, but then Mox hits the lariat. Punk then picks up Moxley, but then Moxley escapes. Punk goes for a right, and then Moxley goes for a right. Both exchange shots after that. Moxley then goes after the knee of Punk, but then Punk then goes for the neck breaker. Punk then hits the GTS, but then gets blocked by Moxley. Moxley then hits the Death Rider, which is a modified, I wouldn't say a modified, but a more brutal version of the Paradigm Shift. So he goes for the Death Rider. After that, crap, I literally missed my notes. So he goes for the Death Rider. After that, he goes for the Bulldog Choke. Moxley escapes. Punk rolls through. Punk picks up Moxley, and he hits the GTS, but then Moxley lands back onto the back of Punk. So he really didn't get the full GTS there. After that, Mox lands. After that, Punk picks up Mox. He hits the GTS. We get a cover, and CM Punk wins and beats Jon Moxley in a great match to win the AEW World Championship. Now, after the match, what happens is the lights go out. So the lights go out, and all of a sudden you hear this audio of Tony Khan begging MJF to come back and not let the fans down. So what happens is you hear that, and then after that, it switches immediately to Punk back in 2005 doing his whole devil speech saying, the greatest thing the devil ever did was make you people think he didn't exist. That was back in 2005 when he won the ROH World title. After that, they switched to the masked man that we saw earlier. And then he takes off the mask with his back showing, of course. And then he says the devil, or she said he is the devil himself, shows up his scarf. What happens after that? The crowd goes apeshit. The crowd goes apeshit, and what happens? You see MJF's music hit, and you heard an even louder pop for MJF. So basically, they outdone themselves with the first pop, and they were much louder in the second pop, which was fantastic to see. MJF comes out. He points at CM Punk and does the gesture, and he got a louder pop than CM Punk got in his hometown. And what can I say? We're getting MJF versus CM Punk. That is going to be a freaking awesome ass match. So what are my thoughts on MJF's return? What are my thoughts on MJF's return? Let's be realistic. What are my thoughts on MJF's return? This is a big deal. This is a really big deal because this was a situation. The situation with MJF was a situation that was, a portion of it was real, and they actually turned it into a storyline. That's what basically, realistically, that's what they did with MJF. And what happened, I feel like, what are my thoughts on this? What does the future hold for this? What are they going to do? There's a lot of questions that remain unanswered, especially after the pay-per-view. We do not know when the match is going to take place. Some people are saying it's going to be at Grand Slam. Some people are going to think it's going to be at Full Gear. We do not know. Realistically, we do not know what the hell is going to be happening. But again, you know, when it comes to MJF versus CM Punk, this is a money match. And after this, MJF right now is like the hottest wrestler in wrestling right now. He basically, after that pipe bomb promo, he basically became the talk of the town. And realistically now, he became the talk of the town once again. And what's going to happen is, I believe, is they're going to book this match for Grand Slam, and they're going to have MJF actually win in his hometown. But again, that also raises the other question. There was a lot of speculation on how MJF was going to come back. Now, you heard a bunch of MJF chants by the Chicago crowd, but MJF still flipped off the crowd and still has his heel tactics. But at the same time, if you watch that pipe bomb promo that MJF cut, he basically, right at the beginning, he had the crowd just absolutely booed the shit out of him in LA. And then that transitioned into the entire crowd cheering on him. Now, would this be a case of the roles being reversed? I have no idea. I genuinely believe that Punk is still going to turn heel. My only thing is, I do not know how they're going to turn Punk heel, considering the fact that it's now or never, and they're going to have to put the belt on MJF, considering the fact that MJF right now is literally the hottest thing in the company right now. So we're going to have to wait and see what goes down, but holy shit, this has been absolutely amazing, and it's great to see, and I'm really excited to see what the hell is going to be happening on Dynamite. So yeah, that was my all-out review. Overall thoughts on the pay-per-view. I thought the pay-per-view was absolutely fantastic. It was a great show overall. It was a really long-ass show, but realistically, I definitely enjoyed what I watched, and it was definitely a fun watch in my opinion. And, you know, that ending with MJF definitely made up for all the crazy shit that's going on. But realistically, another thing, and I didn't have enough time to talk about it, but I'll probably come out with an extra talking about this whole drama, was the drama that happened at the media scrum. So instead of me talking about that on this podcast, I'll actually come out with an extra podcast a separate podcast, I should say, talking about this whole CM Punk drama, because the media scrum, MJF was definitely the talk of the town, but also the media scrum, in a way, kind of took that fire away. So we will be talking about that in another video, because that is another major issue that's going on with AEW. So we're going to be talking about that later on. But overall thoughts, All Out was a fantastic show. This is Flamin' Ricky Derez, and this was the Wrestle Havoc podcast. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content. Follow me on social media, of course, at FlaminRick0305 on both Twitter and Instagram. And also listen to the Broken Havoc, or not the Broken Havoc, the Wrestle Havoc podcast in these audio formats on Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts. So you guys want to check out those podcasts in audio format, it's available on those platforms. But yeah, as always, it is Flamin' Rick signing out.